So I've been thinking about this a lot, and I've been thinking about a way to get it out in a nice, concise form in words. And so here it is, a list of the top 5 reasons that you should travel while you're young. Disclaimer, when I say young, I mean people who are in their late teens, early 20s, mid 20s type of range. I'm a bit biased towards this age range because it's the one that I fall into, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't travel if you're a bit older. But it just becomes more obvious as I name off the things why I think this is the perfect age to start. Number 1, you have a lot more opportunity during this time through study abroad programs at your university or through an internship that you might get that is somewhere that isn't in this country that you live in. So you have these opportunities at this age that you probably will not be able to have later on. And it's a much cooler experience to say, oh, I studied a year in Buenos Aires, or I had an internship in London, for when you're applying to real jobs afterwards. So, 2 in 1. You get a nice traveling experience and you get to put it on a resume to be like, I'm impressive. Number 2, generally speaking, you have far less responsibility during this time than you will when you're older. It is most likely that you don't have a lot of bills that have piled up yet. You probably don't own a home when you're 20 years old. It's likely that you're not married or have children. I know there are some people who get married and have children young, but the likelihood is far less than if you're older. So you should take the opportunity when you don't have responsibility or people depending on you to just go and travel. Number 3, you are more likely to rough it, as I like to say, and I guess other people say as well. What's this mean? I mean that you're more likely to sit on a bus for 18 hours to get from one city to another, as opposed to spending the money to take a plane that you might do when you're older, not because you necessarily have more or less money, but because you can't really rough it anymore and spend 18 hours on a bus or spend 20 hours in a car driving across the country. Which kind of leads me to number 4. There's a lot more cheaper options as a young traveler. Not only are you more likely to stay in a hostel instead of a hotel, or take a bus instead of a plane or a train, but also things like museums tend to have youth fairs or student fairs. So, if you went to school, keep that ID on you. It come in handy giving you some discounts. You're saving a couple of dollars here, a few euros there. It adds up to being something that you can spend more time in that country, or go do something else that you thought about doing but you didn't think you'd have enough money. It all works out. And last but not least, number 5, probably the most important thing, the best way to get into the habit of doing anything is to start it as young as possible. If you start traveling when you're younger, you're going to more likely want to do it when you're older. That's not to say that you're not going to suddenly get a sudden bit of inspiration when you're 45 years old to travel the world, but if you didn't do it when you were 18, 19, 20, 25, whatever, when you're 45 or 50 or 60 or even retired, you're just not going to be in that habit. You're not going to have that drive as much to do it because you hadn't done it before. Things seem less scary the more times you do it. So yeah, it'll probably be scary that first time getting on a plane to do a study abroad when you're just 19 years old. But after you do it, after you get that first taste of it, you get over that first hurdle of traveling, especially if you're traveling on your own, it's going to seem like the whole world is open to you. And that is why you should travel young, or as young as possible.